Hello, everybody. I'm Bob226, aka Josiah, and this is DFS Army's NBA Tournament Strategy Show. Sorry, I got distracted by one of the questions popping in. But today we're going to look back at yesterday's slate, see what went well, see what didn't go as well, and then look at today's slate. We have a massive 10-gamer, so definitely want to get to that ASAP and talk through who we like, who we want to avoid, potential tournament pivots here and there as well. So yeah, let's get to it. Surprisingly, this was last night's 100K DraftKings tournament, 100K winning lineup. I was totally ready to get on today's show, and I was like, oh, I feel like I didn't do as well yesterday. I was like, I feel like the plays weren't there. Like maybe the pool was off. Like definitely want to talk about that and get to the right point. But then I pulled this up, and we were on all of these guys. Like there weren't any real surprises here besides maybe Chris Paul to be seen. I can admit I was not on Stephen Curry. I was not on Goran Dragic, but it looked like you didn't need him for the 100K tournament win. We had a long-term member, Vince, take down the mini tournament last night on DraftKings. Congratulations to you, Vince. Love you. Love you in MMA. Glad you took a tournament down in NBA too, man. And also on FanDuel, one of the coaches here at DFS Army, Scott Newman, who I always say is the best coach when it comes to process and creating a really good process. Scott Newman, definitely recommend everyone go talk to him. He took down a tournament where he won $10,000. He also made $5,000 in another tournament where he was just 5 points away from winning $100,000. Scott Newman is on a run. In the NFL, he's won like $50,000 already this year. Strongly and highly recommend you guys joining DFS Army, and you do that by clicking the link in the description. You can use promo code BOB for a 10% discount. And once you join DFS Army, you have access to our cheat sheets, our notes, the pre-lock video that I'll do later today at 5:30 p.m., where I walk through kind of what I'm doing and who's in my player pool. And all of these guys were in there. We actually boosted Bam Adebayo. Zach LaVine was actually a leverage play for me as well. Royce O'Neal was a core. We talked about Pokazevsky on the pre-lock show. Wendell Carter was someone that we really liked as well. Kyle Lowry was a core for me as well. And then Cam Johnson and Chris Paul were the two guys I was not on as highly, but they were in my player pool. So we were all on these guys, and I think that's why we had guys taking it down. Scott Newman, he is not on the cheat sheet, but if you are a DFS Army member, hey, Scott, you know I would let you on the cheat sheet. Don't play me like that. But if you're a DFS Army member in the Discord, Scott every day releases his cores in the Discord for everyone to see. So he is accessible. You can message him. Definitely recommend joining DFS Army for the exposure to really good coaches. I keep trying to say it. We have incredible coaches, and Scott is one of them, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like you have to realize that it takes steps. Like your lineups are getting better piece by piece, and focus on where are you in those tournaments. And if you're getting closer to being, I know for me when I first started, I was like, okay, I never had a top 1,000 lineup when I first started playing DFS. So that was my first goal, and then it was like a top 100, then top 10, and then eventually number one. And that's kind of how I target it. So it really is just appreciating those improvements is a really big part of the process. Mike Smith had a question about last night's cores. What had you guys on Dasumo? What factors led you to him instead of DDR or Levine? Basically, for Dasumo, Dragic, all of those guys, when Kobe White was out, that's what really led to the increase in interest in guys like that. That's what made me get on Levine as well, for being one of my leverage plays. So yeah, I mean, outside of that, awesome night last night for a lot of people at DFS Army and things of that sort. But let's focus on today so we can make money today, because at this point, that's all that really matters. So let's start with this first game because it gets interesting early. Just big warning in advance. This is a true Wednesday NBA slate where we will be waiting on news till the end. We'll be adjusting to news throughout the slate. So strong recommendation. Don't get comfortable today. Don't get too content. Keep an eye on the news. Watch the pre-lock show. Keep an eye on the NBA talk and NBA coaching DFS channels because there's going to be a lot of adjustments we're going to have to make today based on the news and information we get. Agree, Don Juan. Like best coaches, like hands down. Like I was a DFS member before I was a coach, and like literally, it's how it works. A lot of the coaches at DFS Army were members who had a lot of success, and now we're helping other people too. It's something that we like to keep going, so love to see it. All right, so for this Kings and Miami Heat game, number one game on the slate, the slate starts at 7:30 today, which is weird, just really weird, but whatever. At least we get a little bit more time, which is nice. As everyone knows, for the most part, De'Aaron Fox is out, and so that brings a lot of interest into this game for the main reason of the guy that a lot of us know and love from last year, Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell season, guys. He's back in play, 4,200. We're assuming he's going to start. We don't have the official starting lineup yet, but if Davion Mitchell's starting, he is the guy on this slate that will be in pretty much everyone's line. And there's no really good argument against it at this point, so I'm here for it. Outside of that, in this game, the Miami Heat are on a back-to-back, and so there's a few question marks here. Tyler Hero left the game yesterday. He hurt his eye, and a lot of people laugh that off because, eye injuries usually aren't taken too seriously, but apparently it started to swell, and so that's why he didn't come back into the game, and so there's a chance he might not play. We know Kyle Lowry has his issues, so he might not. I mean, he's not questionable yet or anything like that, but my own theories, I'm keeping an eye on him as someone who might end up missing some time. So for sure, I want to make sure that I'm not Xing out guys like Max Strus or Caleb Martin or even Duncan Robinson, because these are guys, or Gabe Vincent, because these are guys that could see a little bit more time and have a little bit more increasing usage if Tyler Hero does go down. This is a back-to-back, like I said, for the Miami Heat. So I'm not, again, that doesn't really change too much for me, but it does, makes those injury concerns a little bit more important. I am not that interested in Jimmy Butler today, but I am interested in Bam Adebayo. Scott, what are you saying? Look how long Garland has been out with his eye injury. Yeah, exactly. Like, people love to laugh at people for that stuff, but man, when I get poked in the eye, I'm the biggest baby. Like, you poke me, I'm done. You guys might not see me on here for a while. Yeah, exactly, Don Juan. Like, don't set your lines and forget them today, because your feelings will be hurt. Yeah, you saw it. I tried to do it casually. It happens sometimes. Outside of that, probably not going to have too much interest in a lot of these guys, but Bam is still priced appropriately, and the Kings are soft in the front court. So definitely something that I'll keep an eye on. But those are things that I'll dig into later, depending on news. The center position has just been so interesting all season long that I really like to wait until later in the day to kind of like tier my list out there. Next game, Celtics versus Cleveland. This, like you mentioned, Scott, Darius Garland is questionable. He could return today, but I think most people are assuming he's going to be out. He has an eye injury. And so if he is out, I have a lot more interest in this game. But if he plays, I'm just not too interested in this game in general. There definitely are tournament pivots here with good upside. Guys like Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Mitchell. But if Darius Garland plays, I have less interest in guys like Karis LeVert, just because he's not going to have the ball as much. And it's just, this game just isn't super interesting to me outside of just looking for like one-off pieces. Should be a good game though to watch if you're interested in that and not DFS. Next game, Knicks versus Hawks. This game's a little bit more interesting. DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, two strong GPP tournament plays today for me. I don't know how much exposure I'll have to them, but they're in that range where they have enough room for upside in a matchup like this, especially Trae Young. So I like his upside here, but he's not someone I would play in cash. He's not someone I'm going to have in over half my lines because, like we've seen from guys like Trae Young, he can definitely have a snowflake in your line. Like if you're trying to say what's more likely today, it's more likely he'll have a snowflake for you than be on fire. But it's still a ceiling spot for him, so I'm keeping that in mind. DeJounte Murray, similar spot for me. I don't have a ton of interest in the Knicks right now when they're all healthy. And similar, I feel the same about this front court as their prices have started to increase a little bit. We'll see. Some of this could change just because, we'll see on the pre-lock show if this situation changes for me at all. But right now, I'm not too impressed by that situation. There's nothing that's really too shiny there for me. Matthew Ortiz, when the cores come out, are they more cash core or GPP cores as well? That's the good thing about having like multiple coaches is that each coach kind of has their own approach. So I would say like, I don't want to speak for all of the coaches, but I would say most of them are cash cores. I would say for me, my cores are literally my top 5 most owned guys on the slate. And the guys who watch the pre-lock show, you guys know they're literally my top 5 highest owned guys. So that's a GPP core. You'll have some like cheap guys in there sometimes, and other times you'll have some of my like leverage plays sneak in there a little bit too. So definitely not safe for cash. Scott said you can use his for both, and I would agree. Scott Newman's cores are very safe for both cash and GPP. All right. Now, this next game, the Bulls versus the Hornets. Now, this is a game I actually really, really do like, and it's actually an exciting game that we could look forward to attacking. We have some conflicting news. If you follow Sham on Twitter, he's really good at getting a lot of news out. Zach LaVine isn't supposed to play, apparently. But the coach and Zach LaVine last night in post-game interviews said that he might play and that he's open to playing, even though he played a lot of minutes last night and absolutely crushed last night. For now, I'm going to work under the assumption that Zach LaVine's going to be out, but there is a chance he could actually play. So definitely do be on the lookout for that. Zach LaVine, if he is out, that makes this game a smash game for Nikola Vucevic, who crushed us last night. He was the biggest reason why I didn't succeed last night. Him failing absolutely sucked. But I'm forgetting that. That was in the past. That was yesterday. Focusing on today, I'm playing Nikola Vucevic, and it's going to be fine. Without Zach LaVine, he has a 22% usage rate, and he has 1.18 fantasy points per minute. That is something that I like to attack, and we've known all year we like to play bigs against the Hornets. So that's something that I'm excited to play. DeMar DeRozan is also super exciting in this spot. He's someone that I've liked playing without Zach LaVine just in general. Exactly, Scott. Like, everyone and their mom's going to be like, we can't play Nikola Vucevic because he hurt our feelings yesterday. But you definitely can. I mean, he can hurt our feelings again today, but when it makes sense on paper, I'm okay with it hurting my feelings and hurting my lineups. At least it made sense, and I wasn't just doing something to do it. DeMar DeRozan, though, like I mentioned, smash spot without Zach LaVine. He has a 31.3% usage rate, usually around like 1.38 fantasy points per minute when Zach LaVine is out. So that's something that we definitely want to attack. We know what to expect from like Dennis Smith Jr., Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, all those guys at this point. Like LaMelo Ball is still out. Terry Rozier is still out. They are seeing all of the usage in the world and are definitely in play. There is a chance Andre Drummond could come back today. If he does, he's cheap enough where he's a value play we can consider. Colby White is also questionable today. If he ends up playing, he's also somebody we can consider at his price tag. At $3,700, that's a steal. Is even better with Zach LaVine out. So like I said, a lot of news here that we need to keep an eye on. And will dramatically impact this slate just like it did yesterday. So definitely keep an eye on it. And ideally, we get this news by the pre-lock show or during the pre-lock show so we can talk through it a little bit. But just in case, I want to make sure that we're ready. All right. Speaking of people fading things because it happened last time, this is a matchup we've seen before. The Bucks versus the Pistons. Giannis disappointed here last time in this matchup. And if I had to guess, Giannis is going to be severely underowned in this situation too, because he underperformed in the last game against this team. So I'm interested in playing Giannis. I don't think I have to explain that. I don't think I have to explain why you play Giannis. He is expensive. He has a 36.9% usage rate, and right now he has 1.79 fantasy points per minute on the season, which is insane. Without a doubt, I mean, it's really between him and Luka, between like the best raw points player on the slate, but I think it's Giannis, and the matchup's incredible too. And you're getting him at low ownership. A lot of things to love minus the price tag. I haven't made lineups yet, so I don't know how easy or how those lines will look with the value we have on this slate. If I had to guess, if we get more value, that might start to drive ownership on Luka and Giannis a little bit more. But right now, they're not looking like they're going to be too popular. I think Jrue Holiday, he's definitely started to have some stronger performances with multiple 50-burger games, which is something we've been looking for all season with Chris Middleton out. We've been like, Jrue, where are you, man? But he finally showed up. He's someone that you can definitely play. He's not someone that really stands out, though. Cade Cunningham has had some gigantic games. His ceiling, we're starting to see it for sure. And while he hasn't been that popular, I think people will be more on him today, again, just because he did have a really big game in this matchup. So that wouldn't shock me at all. I don't know if I'll be on Cade Cunningham as much. It will really just depend on ownership. Jaden Ivey and a lot of these Piston guys, I've just been avoiding when everybody's healthy. A lot of them just kind of eat into each other's usage rates. But they are still tournament plays that I would consider for GPP, just because we've seen, even in this short season so far, a lot of the guys on the Pistons have ceiling games. So I don't think I'll have like multiple Pistons in a lineup, but I would consider having like one or two just like fill-ins in my lineups. This is another game that we saw very recently. Clippers versus Rockets. We saw Paul George crush the Rockets, which was awesome to see because a lot of us were on Paul George, which was good. This time around, I'm not as interested in Paul George, and part of the reason for that is that John Wall is playing. Kawhi Leonard should be out for this game, and so that's not really anything that I'm worried about because he'll be out for a good chunk of time. But John Wall's usage rate, I think, will impact Paul George here. Just because Paul George hasn't been great this season. And so I'm not really trying to go back to the well here. This is still a good spot, a good matchup for him. I just don't think he's going to dominate like he did last time around, which is what he would need to do at this price tag. You can still consider him for GPP tournaments, hoping for that same game, but I wouldn't bet on it. Outside of him, I think Sengun is definitely still priced appropriately here. We're still getting him at a little bit of a value, so he's someone that I think will be on the higher end of my player pool as well. Outside of that, unless there's any injury news, I'm not too interested in a lot of the extracurricular pieces here. All right, guys, a few more games to go. We have the Raptors versus the Spurs. I feel like I say it all the time, but it's because it's true. If the Raptors are losing a starter, we play the Raptors starters. Right now, Fred VanVleet is questionable. We don't know if he's going to play. If he's playing, I have a lot less interest in this team in general, outside of maybe just a few lineup fillers. I don't think I'll be boosting any of them. But maybe outside of Pascal Siakam, he's just been dominating this season, and the Spurs are not a great defensive team in the paint. So I would have some interest there. But outside of that, if Fred VanVleet's in, not that interested. If he's out, then I have a lot of interest once again in Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, and OG Anunoby. And Where is he? And Gary Trent Jr. I knew I was missing one. A lot more interest in their starters and this team in general. So I'm kind of hoping Fred VanVleet's out just so this game can be more interesting. If he's in, I mean, just kind of looking, looks like Scotty Barnes still projects well at this point, but we'll just keep an eye on that situation as we move later into the day. The Spurs are priced appropriately at this point. Keldon Johnson's questionable. So, of course, if he's out, that would make this game much more interesting. But if he's in, Keldon Johnson, someone who would be in my player pool, all of them would be in my pool, but none of them really stand out as fantastic plays, at least to me as of right now. But definitely something to keep an eye on. The next game, we have the Jazz versus the Mavericks. This is the Luka Doncic game. And I say it that way because when it comes to the Mavericks, the only guy that I'm interested in playing is Luka Doncic. I know a lot of people like to try to get some access to Christian Wood, but with him coming off the bench, he has to be extremely efficient to make value, and just to make value, to exceed value, he has to really crush and dominate. He's just not seeing plus like more than 30 minutes right now, and that's what makes me slightly less interested in him. If he does start to see that, then he starts to become someone that we like a lot more. On the Jazz side, Lauri Markkanen has been crushing, so he's definitely like your tournament strategy GPP play because his price is going up, and people don't want to pay for him at this price. This matchup is an average matchup for him, so it's not something that I'm actively trying to target, but he's still looked really, really good, and his usage has been fantastic this season. So this is a situation I want to dig deeper into to see if maybe Lauri is someone I should consider as maybe like a leveraged GPP play for me today. Dinwiddie, Clarkson are also other options for the GPP role as well, but as of right now, they're not standing out too much to me. Jordan Clarkson has looked really good this season. He's had a 24.1 usage rate. And so he's definitely someone else we can consider, and he's still priced appropriately as well. So definitely a few ways we can go in this game. Like I mentioned, Christian Wood's questionable. If he's out, that would definitely make me a little bit more interested in this game, but I don't think it would change too much because like your next options, like you start getting more exposure to guys like Maxi Kleber and Mr. DFS himself, Dorian Finney-Smith, which I would do and definitely probably go over the field on. But it's still not something I'll be super excited about just because we've seen this situation before, and it's not always the smash that we would want it to be. All right, next game, Memphis versus the Portland Trailblazers. Ja Morant, he's back. Nice, good. No more questions there. Still questions with Desmond Bane. If Desmond Bane is out, I like Ja Morant a lot tonight. Unfortunately, this is a late game, so we might not find that news out early enough for us to use it. So I might do some things strategically to try to make sure I'm still getting some exposure to Ja and can still pivot off of him if I need to. But I do like Ja a lot here if Desmond Bane's out. If Desmond Bane plays, this is more of a neutral matchup for Ja, and I would I would prefer other studs on the slate, like Doncic and Giannis. So not someone I would try to force as of right now. But we'll dig into that more on the pre-lock show, and we'll keep an eye on that as well. Anthony Simmons, with Damian Lillard out, we've talked about this before. Simmons is the guy on this team. Love getting exposure to him. He has a 28.9% usage rate on this team and a 1.9 fantasy points per minute on DraftKings right now production. So I love to see that from Simmons. Definitely want to get exposure to him tonight to some extent. Outside of that, Shaedon Sharpe will be starting for Damian Lillard once again. He's priced up for his production, so it's not like a smash value like it was earlier. This is something we want to keep an eye on. I'll look a little bit deeper into some of his recent games to see if I feel like this price tag is appropriate for him, and if I feel like there's a ceiling for him, it's something that I want to dig a little bit deeper into, and we can discuss on the pre-lock show. Outside of that, I don't have a ton of interest in some of these like extra pieces like Tyus Jones and Brandon Clark and some of these other guys down here at this point. Last game on the slate is probably one that a lot of people are annoyed by at this point. Anthony Davis is questionable once again. Feels like he's always questionable at this point. So it's not really a surprise. I think everyone expects him to probably play because that's what they do. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, they're always, will they play, won't they play? And they typically play. If Anthony Davis is out, I would definitely have a lot more interest in LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and just that team in general. But it feels like a waste of time to talk about just because it's happened so often and it's not worth it really. More importantly, Brandon Ingram is out, and that makes me a lot more interested in guys like CJ McCollum and Zion Williamson today. They're priced up, and so this isn't a smash spot where we're getting them at a cheaper value than normal. And yeah, Scott, like freaking Anthony Davis was born questionable. It's annoying, but whatever. Trey Murphy should start for Brandon Ingram here, and so he's definitely in play as well. So these are all guys I'm definitely going to keep an eye on as I do my research to see if there's anyone I want to, boost a little bit and get more exposure to. But yeah, overall, that is this slate in a nutshell. We will dig much deeper into this slate in the pre-lock show. During the pre-lock show, you'll see who I'm boosting. You'll see how I operate the domination station. We can also go through any questions and concerns you guys have on this slate as well. As a reminder, to have access to the pre-lock show, you have to be a DFS Army member. I post the YouTube video link to the show in the Discord, so only VIP members have access. So anyway, that is all for this one. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow and or later today. Peace.